Hey John, let's talk about the real estate market and just the market in general. I know there's a lot of panic. Some people call it some fear, chaos. What are you seeing with, the market in general, real estate prices, interest rates, mortgages, in general?
I mean, there's a lot going on. We're at a high, since the interest rates were at their lows, earlier this year. So rates have come up, which has definitely cooled down the buyer's interest in the market. And it's got sellers, kind of on their heels, like, what should they do? So we're starting to see more inventory because there are people that are a little bit panicking about like should they get their house sold. There's been talks of a crash, but really we don't really anticipate seeing a crash. I mean, it takes something like huge unemployment numbers, major economic shift. Higher interest rates itself are not going to cause a housing crash. So those are things that we're seeing some positives in that there is more inventory. There's more availability for houses for buyers. So even with the higher rates, I mean, there's still people buying, and so that's really something that's I would say right now we're kind of in a sweet spot of the availability of homes and buyers that did have interest. They should be looking at houses and seeing if it meets their needs.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of smart people say that when everybody fears and panics, that's when you make your moves. And I think a lot of people who are taking that, I mean, it's a risk, but there's always risk, right? But like you said, we're definitely in an adjustment. Now, inventory has doubled. That's what the media is saying. That is true. But what they're not saying is it's doubled from 3, 4, 5 months ago, which was record lows. I mean, in our area, we're less than a month, right? A buyer's market is typically 4 to 6 months. We haven't seen that since 2016, 15. I mean, it's been years and years and years. Inventory has only been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And the interest rates are making it tough with the payments because the payments are higher. So what we're seeing the big, I would say 10 to 15% price adjustment in the last 90 days or so is because your payment is actually even higher than it was if you were bought that home that was priced at $150,000 more potentially, right? So that's what we're seeing the adjustments for that. But we're definitely not in a crash. And we've talked about where people hopefully can take advantage of this market shift and actually be able to compete. We're able to get buyers closing costs. We're actually being able to do inspections many times and not have to bid everything up and go over list price, waive appraisals, waive everything. Where now they're paying top dollar, but they're getting into a house they don't even know if there's any major issues with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing is that we have homes that are on the market that it used to be there would be multiple offer situations, and now there's houses that are sitting because people are taking their time. They're really kind of assessing, like, is it the right house, and not just panic buying because there wasn't anything available. So people are really kind of putting in the work and really kind of figuring out, like, is this going to be something that's going to be long term for them? We were seeing a shift of people that are having to go back to the office, so there's not as much remote work. So, that's kind of cooling off some of these other outlying areas that, like I heard Boise was like one of the top areas for people to buy in the country because there's people that were moving there from California and various different states because they could work remotely. Well, that's, cooling off. So those markets are going to be affected by that. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a crash in those markets because the house prices are coming down to maybe within normal standards. Now, if we do see a recession and rates do come down because of that, what may happen is that we're going to see more buyers start coming back into the market, and then again we'll be in that competitive situation where there's going to be multiple offers, and that'll cause house prices to go back up. So that's really why we're saying that there's kind of a sweet spot right now that there are houses available. There's buyers that can qualify, and if they can, they really need to take a real true assessment if this is the right time for them.
Yeah, I'm also seeing a lot of the inventory that is sitting there is many of those sellers are actually trying to buy something. So they want to rent back, right? We have multiple sellers and buyers we're working with right now. That's the situation. So they're not willing to just accept an offer and sell right away unless they can get a rent back because they want to make sure they can find something, right? So that's affecting that. But that's the things you don't see is why is this home on the market for 28 days? That sometimes there's reasonings, right? Or sellers don't have the funds to be able to fix things and stuff, where buyers are now expecting it. But again, taking advantage of the market, the cool off, I think for many people, it might be a great time right now. So, if home buying has been in your goals in the last year or a year and a half, where you tried it last year, but you weren't able to be successful, it might be a great time to revisit or at least have a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, rates are still, really, I mean, if you look at the 30-year average of where rates are at, I mean, there's still phenomenal rates right now. And there's always the opportunity that, if rates do get better in the future, we can look at refinancing somebody. So I think that it's just about the house. Do you love it or not?
Yeah, I mean, I bought my first home in 2013, and that was at 5.5 interest rate, right? So if people hear that last year, they're like, "Oh, you're crazy." And the crazy part is, I actually refinanced it last year for the first time. That 5.5 interest at that time was a great rate,
Yeah.
and we got it, and I paid for it. But that home, that I bought for $183,000, 6 months ago, when the market was just insane, my neighbor sold for 580. Right now, probably now, I don't think about 580. I mean, we're talking to my neighbor about it, just talking probably in the fives, 515, 520 all day long. Now, with the market shift we're seeing, we're probably at 475, 480. But guess what? That's almost a 250% appreciation. So even though the rate was high at that time, I'm glad I made the move.
I mean, I think that real estate's always a great investment, and some of the wealthiest people in this nation own a lot of real estate. So, just if you have questions about it, let's talk and let's see what we can do to be of help to you.
Perfect. We appreciate you guys. Let us know if we can help.
We're rolling.
Turn that shit off.